they need to jump onto projects and do some things, and that the amount of time that we have to have conversations is limited.
Yeah, yeah.
Jose,
I just turned on the recording. This is the NeoBooks call for Monday, March 10th, 2025, and we're reconstituting how we meet and where we meet. So that's what the conversation is. Sorry, Klaus, go ahead.
Jose, you changed your logo. Tell us what this is all about.
Yeah.
So we've gone from radical to radical world, and radical world encompasses more of the things that we were working on as independent projects. So we had about 6 independent projects, and all of them are being brought together into radical world, and that's the change in the logo. So it's about encompassing.
And so radical purpose, what I had you under before was radical purpose.
Mm-hmm. It's one of those projects.
Okay. So radical world is now the umbrella org, or what do you mean?
Yes.
Cool.
So radical world, radical companies, radical purpose, our protocols, our collabs, serving life, Society 2045, they're all part of that project.
Cool. I just sorted things out in my brain.
I wish I could do the same easily, just as easily as you did.
Yeah, I just like flip them. And then I put radical world under communities trying to fix world problems, which is where it should be. Mark.
Pointed reply. Jose, 2 questions. Do you spell your first name with an accent over the E? And where do I find out more about what you're doing? What's my onboarding to your work?
We've got radical.world, a website that's being built as we speak. So the blog should be up this week. It's been a slow process over the last few weeks to do that. Thus my comments earlier. Just dividing our time. And yeah, Mark, if you want to learn more, we're still in the early stages of that process, so feel free to reach out. Sorry, there was something. Sorry.
Accent over Jose?
Yeah, that was the question. So I have an alias. I am José Antonio de Serpa, which is my birth name, which has an accent, and then Jose Leal, which does not.
Thank you.
Just because I'm in the States and most people don't know what an accent is. So.
And heritage from Cape Verde.
No idea where it all comes. Oh, Azores.
Azores, sorry, wrong one.
Azores.
That's right.
And Jose, some of us don't know how to use the keyboard to make the accent.
Exactly. So it's just much easier to keep it simple, and that's the reason for Jose, because it's also simpler for people to pronounce because there's so many Jose's, and José is difficult, so on and so forth. But thank you for asking, Mark.
Marc-Antoine has been in some of these calls also. He's kind of been doing both FJB and here, and he's also one of the people who are very stretched for time, but he's the one who can't do Mondays really pretty much anymore. So there's the question of moving one or both calls to Tuesdays. I don't know, but we should sort of countenance that too. But Marc-Antoine has been a regular for Free Jerry's Brain almost since its inception. And I'm stepping aside from both. So the question about when and where is up. Eric, please.
So we're not going to free Jerry's brain. We're going to free our own brains. Is that what it is? Okay.
That's right.
Yep. I just wanted to know from Jose, if your that spreadsheet that you put together, is that something original that you created, or is there a source for it?
No, it was a spur of the moment. I mean, it'd been noodling it for some time, but as we spoke about it here in NeoBooks, it sort of caused it to be created.
This is the Serving Life NeoBook Foundation blocks, that one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's excellent. I've been studying it and playing with it, like putting it into a little prototype that I'm doing for HyperCard.
Nice.
Mhm.
Does it kind of mesh with what you've been thinking about, or it's unique and different?
Well, I find it a very interesting framework. I'm not sure how I would actually use it to classify an argument yet, but I think it's something that could be taught. And I think if it's made easier for people to approach, it could become useful, helping people think, see where their thinking lies.
Just on that, Eric, we had this conversation when that was first presented. The intention is not to have everybody learn that, right? It's just too much for the average person who might be writing a book or writing some papers. My sense is that it could be used as a basis for a tool that would overlay it, and that tool would be AI enabled and be able to help people frame their work in the tool, and then also enhance the tool with framing that's not pre-existing
If we had,
within the tool.
Stacey, I'll get to you in just a moment. If we had infinite time, it would be really fun to brainstorm visual approaches to what you just described. Meaning, I can see that I might have a little listener AI that's sitting as I'm writing, and that's saying, "Hey, what you've written seems to fit on this sort of logical foundation. Does that seem right to you or not? And if not, then swipe left, swipe right, or this one, or it could be one of these three. Which of them fits what you're thinking or what your opinion or beliefs are? And by doing so, you could help people who don't think in those ways identify their foundational beliefs and attach them to their writing from the author's perspective, which I think is at least as interesting, maybe more interesting than any analyst looking at the writing and saying, no, 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 it's this perspective. Does that make sense?
I think it does. Yeah. And I was seeing it based on today's tools.
Yeah.
That you would say, okay, I reached a stopping point. Let me have the tool do an analysis of everything that I've written to date and see where it's at.
Have you fed the spreadsheet to any of the engines that can look at Google Docs and said, hey, what sense do you make of this? And what would you do?
No, not really.
That I'm just realizing that when I said if we had infinite time, I'm beginning to use the AI tools better, which is one of the things I needed to do. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. There's stuff that I thought would be impossible for me to do that's now like within arm's reach if I only figure out how to do it well. Stacey and then Mark.
Yeah, let me work backwards from what you just said. Imagine if we had that in a group right here where we could see as a person spoke, where they showed, how they showed up, and we could then discuss it together as a group. Then I was going to say, Jose, if you get a chance, you might want to look at last week's where Eric showed what he created using your chart, because then you could see exactly what he did with it. And Eric, I was going to ask you if it was possible to do something like that, where you were charting how a person's argument fell into, I'm trying to think of the right words. So if I was giving an argument, if you could use a chart, if you could use something like what you did to show where what I was saying fit in, like if it was like irrelevant or emotional, or if it was fact-based and was forming a good foundation, so that a person could see that the argument they were making was built upon a strong foundation or not.
I
So
think for now, it would take a human to listen and classify that. AI wouldn't trust yet to do that.
but I'm saying if part of the activity
Mm-hmm.
were for humans to do that together, for us to be discussing where does that fit in.
Yeah,
I'm just
is it scientific? Is it mathematics? Yeah, where does your argument
again
fit?
I'm looking, I'm thinking in terms of education.
Mm-hmm.
How do we combine education, what we can do together moving forward with AI, as opposed to waiting until it's built and then figuring out how do we get it to go in the right direction. Let's just start steering the ship.
Does
Yeah, I
anyone
mean,
have a link for that? Sorry to interrupt. Does anyone have a link for last week's?
It's on the server on the Mattermost.
is it under Klaus's YouTube?
No, yeah, it's Klaus's YouTube, yeah, but it's posted
Uh,
on our channel.
Yeah, I could give a demo later if we want, but yeah, I think in general, critical thinking skills need to be taught in kindergarten and keep going.
Well, again, and I'm pretty much done, but I'm just going to say it again. I think critical thinking skills could be a fun activity for grown-ups, us, to practice together. That's all I want to say.
I put Klaus's recording of last week's call in my brain, so it is this link right here.
Oh, thank you, Jerry.
At least it should be. I didn't test it right now, but it should be that.
Yeah, there were some good discussions afterwards as well.
Cool. Mark, you're muted.
I have a friend who's working in AI. I have many friends who are working in AI, and he posted something nice on LinkedIn, and I'm about to post his reply, which is a teacher, I think from New York somewhere. So if anybody wants to go to LinkedIn, I can post the LinkedIn link, but I'm just going to, in a few minutes, post the image that I thought was interesting that the teacher says, join my class. Jose, I went to your spreadsheet and I searched for love and I searched for kindness. I didn't need an AI. Didn't find it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's singular to me. I'm not sure what your purpose is. We talked
So the
about
idea was to show that there's a mechanism, not that it's absolute, it has all the answers, that it's fully populated, none of the above, but that there is a possible mechanism that we could create,
a what mechanism?
a possible
Oh, possible. Thank you.
possible mechanism that we could create that would allow us to add whatever worldviews we want to put in there. Right. And it's not an exhaustive list of worldviews. It's not it doesn't have a foundation for everything. But anyone could put their worldview in there and in a sense say, oh, well, the reason I think that this is a true thing is because whatever. And if other people believe in that whatever, then their stuff would also be based on that. And if other people don't believe in the whatever, then it would be based on something else. And so whatever that could be. So the answer to your comment, Mark, is not that it's an exhaustive layout. It was a demo of a possible way of framing logic that isn't based on a traditional way of looking at things where every phrase, every word is then bound to some WordNet-like description, but that what we do is build a framework that is foundational, that things are built on top of. And so you could build a different foundation. You can have a totally different foundation, and that foundation and the things that are built on top of it will make sense within that context, assuming it really makes sense within that context.
Klaus, may I comment shortly?
Sure.
Go ahead, Mark.
I'm a database engineer, and I've tried, in quantified self and in many different organizations, including Microsoft and AICPI, CPA, CPA organization out in I think it was Newark, maybe Jersey City, I forget. Anyway, basically we have an alignment of issue, what Jack Park calls knowledge federation. How do we take a worldview that's over here, that has data in a particular format, and match that data in a way that can be shared with a different worldview in XML as opposed to JSON P or whatever you have. And I'm not sure if that's the direction you're going in, to basically say, okay, here's some static structure that we can agree with and disagree with, find the Venn diagram, and hooray, move on from there. And I'll let either Jose respond or move to Klaus. That's fine.
Let's move to Klaus and then maybe.
So Klaus and then me, and then on from there. Go ahead, Klaus.
Yeah, so this whole conversation about structure and protocols has made me go back to look at my own writing and the books that I've been on. So and then actually realize that I do have quite a gap in structure, and that could really use some help and be vastly improved. So right now I just write around a topic. So unlike a book, where you develop a topic and then you define a beginning, a middle, and an end of a book, I let the topic take me to wherever it seems to want to go, so to speak. So right now I have two topics. One is Politics 2025, and the other one is Farm Bill 2025. And those topics go on a wild ride, right? I mean, the Farm Bill is all over the place because every time you dial in, someone has come up with a new idea, and now why don't we cut $230 billion out of the Farm Bill and see what happens, sort of thing. And then I come with an opinion, that turns into a nugget that fits into this book. But in the first book, I had sort of serendipitously developed a structure that actually really works, which is you introduce the topic, you expand the topic, and then you use a spiral dynamics phase to translate the topic into audience-specific language. And then you use theory U to develop a progression of explanation that gets a diverse audience coming from different walks of life, from different starting points, to a state of presencing. So we all arrive at the state of presencing from which we can move forward, into crystallizing and prototyping and so on. So that's sort of where I think any topic that you pick could be fleshed out, with this idea in mind of it's alive, it's a living story. It's not something that you know how to end, because the end is writing itself as we move along. Yeah. And so to me, that's the essence of a NeoBook. And I had a discussion with the AI, and I posted that, I think, yesterday, to how this is a living document that is asymmetric in the way it thinks, in the way it evolves, and reaches into seeks to connect different knowledge bases, right? I mean, when you're thinking of theory U and spiral dynamics, add it into your core topic, then the AI starts dancing, right? Because now it's breaking out of its linear form of thinking and and seeks to correlate. And that's really what I'm interested in. So anyway, so that was sort of my way of thinking in what I would love to see. And I think, Jose, I mean, everybody is working on a topic, right? That wants to translate into a NeoBook format. So what is this format? So we have all kinds of protocols and discussions around structure and so on, but how does this translate into actually writing, and into actually moving a topic forward like this?
I am noticing myself getting spun up by this wonderful conversation in the way I'm trying to avoid these days. So I'm going to hand off the conversation and step away. Also, I know that if I stay here, you guys may not figure out how to meet next week, and so I want to make sure that happens. So I'm going to bid you adieu. You'll see more of me on LinkedIn and Substack and other kind of places, because part of what I'm going to do is like be able to turn out more stuff. So it's not like I'm going into reclusion. I'm actually hoping to turn out all the stuff that's stacked up in my head as a result of all of our lovely interactions on all the different calls, because that's what I've been weaving all this time. So I'm going to head off right now. The recording is still
Barry?
on. So yes.
Before you go, you have to hear the question that I'm going to ask.
Oh, please.
I just want to ask again, what's the purpose of doing the writing? And you don't have to answer that now.
What's the purpose of doing which
You
writing?
don't have
The things I
the
want to write?
writing, whatever, the writing, not your writing in particular,
Yeah.
the writing. We're talking about NeoBooks, and books to me is about writing, but there's so much more than just writing. I mean, why did people write in the first place? And what did we do before writing? And I just want to leave that question to float around.
It's a great question, and I'd love to comment on it a bit. First, there's a relatively radical view that I've got somewhere in my brain that writing is a temporary hack for humans, that writing shows up, Gutenberg, and then lots of literacy and everything else, and writing will vanish, that we will have some new post-literacy kind of world where we can communicate, I'm assuming, better with something post-writing. I have been watching for this future all the time, everywhere. I see nothing, and I mean nothing, that expresses and captures things like stupid linear writing. I will also say that I'm a big fan of The Alphabet versus the Goddess, which as its thesis suggests that linear writing damaged our brains and our perceptions and managed to make the world this patriarchal kind of world, which I don't really like, and that it deprecated the divine feminine and a whole bunch of stuff I can go into. So I think writing is not the strongest thing we've got, but it's right now the best thing we've got to capture ideas. I also will say that I intend to do a whole bunch of videos and a bunch of other media. In fact, what I want to record today are a couple of braincasts on different parts of my brain, just to explain what the damn thing is and get it in the world more, et cetera, et cetera. But I will tell you, I'm going to probably also publish a transcript of what I say in text below the video. So if you don't want to watch the video, here's what I said, and it makes it searchable, blah, 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 blah. And then the way I'm thinking and writing right now in nuggets makes me really happy. And I'm doing that a lot and trying to exercise that muscle more and trying to make it so that modules roll up into longer pieces of text, but the modules are reusable and can live, in this NeoBooky world. And then last thought, the title NeoBooks, which is sort of contentious, we might want to call it something else, but the book part of NeoBooks was meant always as bait, not as the thing we want. The thing we want is ideas in community. We want living ideas that we can put to work. So maybe Neo idea, I don't know. But Neo book was like, hey, everybody knows what a book is. Everybody recognizes a book. So calling it Neo book was like, we'll start by being able to produce something that looks like a book. But in fact, the project is elsewhere. The book is just, there's a thought in my brain and a nugget that's out that I need to finish writing, that's books and PDFs where ideas go to die. And I believe that. There's a nugget I hope to publish soon that says, here are the unspoken flaws of books. Here are the structural defects of books, the things that we don't ever mention. Like books are supposed to be all original work. We can't reuse other people's text unless we're quoting them. Wait, what if we remix things and just put an outline around them and call that a book, because it's one expression of thinking at one moment in time, but the ideas are out in the wild in this medium that we're trying to feed together. So there's a bunch of stuff there. Stacy, it's a lovely question that I actually want to focus on in the things that I'm creating.
Yeah, I really appreciate your answer. I really do.
Thanks. I need the mental time to go do the things I just described and make them, and I'm going to be popping these things out into the world as best and quickly as I can. Eric?
Yeah, we wish you all the best with that.
Yeah, I was going to say good luck with that.
Thank you for getting us started. We'll figure out how to meet next week and going forward.
And I love you all, and thank you. And I'm going to go try to rock and roll this thing and see if I can't finish this fight with turning all the robot, the dinosaur, and all my other parts into allies who are marching in the same direction instead of busy having a fist fight in an elevator.
Yeah, and I'd like to relate that to spiral dynamics, which I just learned about from Klaus reading his NeoBook last night.
Oh,
the red, yeah, the red is the warring type, I guess.
Warring factions.
Yeah, and I'm realizing I'm in the orange, aspiring towards yellow, but I have to go through green first.
Intriguing.
Okay.
Jose, is it okay if I pass you the con?
Sure.
And you can pass it to anybody else as you want. But for now,
See you later.
thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Jerry.
So long, and thanks for all the fish.
Thanks for your fish. Yes, so what I wanted to just think about is it possible to rotate hosting the Zoom meetings among the people who have the accounts, and can we agree to do that?
Confusing. I think that would be really confusing, and it would be hard for people that don't come all the time, but may want, I think it would be better to have a standing time in a standing room, just because people like to pop in.
It's just that the location of the room, if we're rotating hosts, it could post the location. If we agree that everybody's going to look in Mattermost to find the location of the room and who's hosting.
You could do whatever you guys decide to do. I'm not even on Mattermost. I'm not on any of these things. I will find my way here, but I can't speak to other people.
How did you get the link? How do you normally find the link, or do you save
Don't go by me. I'm not the norm.
It's important to know how people are finding.
I went to the original email and retraced it until I found how to get here.
Okay, so we have an email list that Jerry started. We could use that to announce the next week call for whoever agrees to host it.
Like I said, I'm going to jump off as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'll stay for this meeting because I think it's good to know what's happening. But myself, just historically, there's an invite on my calendar. I know that there's an event because there's an invite on my calendar, and there's a link on that invite. If I had to, as Stacy described, and I've had to the last few times to do exactly what Stacy described, I wouldn't be able to make it because I'm just back to back to back. And if it's not on the calendar, it's not in my head. If it's not in, then it just disappears. So I would encourage you guys, if you're going to continue this conversation, to do it in a way that feels a little bit more stable for folks. At least for me, it would be impossible, because if it's not on the calendar, I won't do it. I might do it once or twice because I have to go hunt and find it, but it would be very difficult otherwise.
Mark, can I just go real quick? Why don't we schedule for Tuesday? Because Marc Antoine really wants to be part of this. Why don't we schedule something for Tuesday, maybe in Klaus's room? And then on Tuesday, when Marc Antoine is here and he actually has this space, we could talk about going further and maybe shifting it then. But I think he should be here for the conversation. Over.
I have, when I was at the Internet Archive, certain admin login permissions for the Zoom account. So I just imagine that, log into Zoom, set up different permissions to host a meeting on the single account, and many different people can have that permission. And if anybody abuses it, we remove that permission. I don't see a big problem, but not sure how Jerry's channel is set up or anybody else's channel is set up. I'm poor, so I'm not paying Zoom anything, but uh, it doesn't seem like a big problem. But then again, I'm not the one in control of the Zoom account.
What do you think about Brewster Kale? Because this is a topic that he might be interested in, like the Internet Archive. Everything is a book, essentially. No.
Everything is a file.
Okay. Yeah. He tries to make it look like a book.
No, not at
No.
all. No. This is a very complicated conversation. I
Yeah, okay.
am not allowed to disparage the former company or organization where I worked in public, but everything is a file. Everything is a file on a Unix
In
drive.
a church. Yeah.
Well, it's also warehouses. It's also in
Yeah,
Canada
of course.
now, in old bank vaults. I mean, there's, I simply believe that their mission was to deal with bits in, and now it's changed to bits out and to being the library of the internet. Library meaning audio, and
Any media. Yep.
any media, any bit stream, lots
Right.
of games,
Oh yeah.
zillions of Grateful Dead concerts,
Yep.
which are not books. But my mission is bits through minds. It's great to have bits going out if people are watching things and reading things, but if they're not reading things, there's not a buy-in to a book, a NeoBook, a film like Lawrence of Arabia, which, when Jerry was talking, I'm going, wait a second, there's this entire arts movement of immersive media where sometimes it's even interactive, like, a play that has audience participation, which hopefully was the Agora, the ancient Euripides plays of Athens, where the entire community just had this foundational knowing together. Now I don't, I hearken back to television, also when Jerry was talking, and how CBS News with Walter Cronkite was
That's where you looked. That's where you went. Yeah.
well, that's where you had a reference to, because there was ABC News, there's NBC News, and there was Tom Brokaw, and there were many other
Yeah. You had the
really
water cooler at work for people to talk about what they saw in the news. Yeah.
exactly, and that disunion of attention is what I think about when I come and see what Jose has done, what Klaus is talking about. Where do real humans, what do they pay attention to, and how do they join in? Not only attention, but participation. What strikes me about YouTube, and Eric and I have had some conversations about its limits recently, is that, I predicted this back in the early 80s that television was going to become a medium, video art. And Bill Viola and Namjoon Paik, if those names are unfamiliar, well, I hope they will be. They're both brilliant. I think they're both passed away. I'm not sure, but they're video artists. And I thought that video art would be like open poetry readings, and many people would expand what we knew as network TV. Then came cable TV, then came YouTube. It's that kind of prolific production of, I have something to say. Here it is. Well, YouTube limits the audience. And also, if it goes international, then the NSA can basically copy and look at it, which was something that was told by a private Facebook message to me, to be careful of what I post. Don't post about the government, don't post about military, which was rather weird.
Thanks for letting us know. Yeah. Yes. Are you complete?
Yeah,
Okay. Thank you.
muted. I'm going to get off now, come back for the next session to find out when we're going to schedule. I just want to say that, I don't know spiral dynamics or theory U, but I know life, and I know love, and I know fear. And those three things go together. And whether we like it or not, they will always go together. And yeah, I'm just putting it out there. Just want to make that clear. So see you
Yeah,
soon.
thank you, Stacy.
Bye-bye. Oops.
Bye.
So
Thanks,
Jose,
board.
you would drop off as well then from the call.
Yeah, I can do that. I was just going to say, Eric, the video that Jerry shared was not the one that we were talking about, but I did find the one from the 3rd.
Oh, good. Yeah.
And so that's really great what you did there.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
it.
Send me any feedback you have if they think it's useful or you want to adapt it.
Are
or
we
something.
connected? I don't know if I have your
You're on the
contact info.
email that was Jerry sent an email with all of our emails last
Gotcha.
night. So I'm on that if you want to directly email me. I'm also on
Perfect.
Mattermost. Yep.
Perfect. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Great meeting. Did we decide on who's gonna host on next Tuesday?
Oh yeah. Let me see. Do I have the privilege of passing on to someone else?
You can make another person the host, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Make host Klaus. Tag, you're it.
Okay.
Enjoy, guys. And we'll
thanks.
stay in touch. Ciao, guys.
Okay, Jose.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you see this go forward? I mean, unlike everybody else, I'm underwater. I'm starting up a new project in Bend that will be very time consuming. So where do we go with this thing?
Okay. Well, what about just for next Tuesday? Are you able to host a Zoom call at this time next Tuesday? Just to get Mark Antoine on board.
Hold on. Yeah, I'm open next Tuesday.
Okay. If you agree to do that, then just send an email to the email list you replied to last night.
Yeah.
Yeah, let us know. And then we could, yeah. So I thought we could rotate hosts. But we'll see.
Yeah. I don't see this as a problem. We could probably find a way of sending out an email beforehand and posting it on Mattermost. And
yep,
there are several of us who have Zoom links, so that should be workable.
Yep. Yeah, Mark, I would just be careful if that's an account owned by the archive and you try to, no, the Zoom account is something else.
Well, it's a personal account, and they linked me to be able to host things on their archive account. I don't know if they've.
Oh, you have permissions on their official account to
I
host
hope
a
they
meeting.
removed it.
You never know. I mean, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah, they should.
I mean,
Right.
I'm not trying to log into or host Zoom meetings on the Internet Archive account, and I think it would be best to not ask Brewster about doing that. There may be other people with funding that have the ability to say, "Oh, yeah, use our Zoom account." You know, just make sure you use your own rooms rather than the existing rooms that we've already set up for our meetings.
Yeah. But I'm wondering, would other people at the archive be interested in this topic of NeoBooks?
Yes and no.
Mm-hmm.
Um, again, I don't want to say anything bad about the Internet Archive. I love the Internet Archive. And there are people who are doing a number of different experiments with how to reach people both with static media and interactive media. And um, the most interesting was um, somebody who did a lot of work creating interactive DVDs, and I don't remember his name, but I could look it up. Who started a project which was seed funded by the Internet Archive, where um, we make web pages come alive. So if we have a web page with 3 links, you go to that web page and you get 4, the original web page and the 3 links shown at the same time in a view, so you could see where things went. And if you went to the next page, which has 7 links, then you'd see all the 7
nice.
thumbnails of the pages, and you'd have this multimodal interface where
Right.
there was video, and then you could kind of like see links between things. So you basically
Sure.
see a graph rather than a page. I thought that was very interesting. And ideally, you could edit. If you were the teacher and you're creating a lesson plan, you would have this graph of associated chunks of information with multimedia, and you could annotate them with your voice or with text. So you have this cloud of meaningful information that could be curated, or moderated, so that the quality of information stays, above a really high level. Or if you're teaching, third graders, that you're not using words like epistemology. So that really interested me, but like everyone, the focus was on, oh my God, this page is broken. We have to fix this. Rather than here we have this blue sky
Yep.
opportunity to change the way that people interact with information, which is what I'm hearing Klaus
Yeah.
say. Here we have some new tools, AIs, and he, if I'm interpreting you correctly, Klaus uses these tools in surprising new ways, and he's learning more all the time, and he wants to somehow get traction with other people who read his stuff, because I think that's very important. And Klaus, um, like everybody else, I calculated my backlog, and I gave up after 100 years. And, it's just, I've got books everywhere, but I don't want to take a book, The Muse Strike Back, or walk through inspections and technical reviews, or aesthetic computing, or rational man, and have it summarized by an AI. I want to read the book. I want to have the book in my hands. I want to type into MX, which Eric knows about, what my thoughts are in interacting with this book. And that's really, really tiny, tiny bottom up stuff, not the AI model where I'm asking for output to give me a different sense of what the book's about. I want to contact the author and the way the author expressed him or herself or themselves. I mean, these days, but and I don't mean to in any way say, Klaus, AIs are bad. You're doing it wrong. That's not my point. My point is to understand, and if I can make a contribution as helping out. I mean, I haven't installed any AIs locally, and this AI cheat sheet I posted, it should be easy to download that Chinese one and turn off the Wi-Fi and just go to town and even
it's possible to play. I think the use cases for AI are more like if a business has a graph and they need to make sense of their business, or it's really specialized. That's my opinion. I mean, you could use it for storytelling and all kinds of other things, but I don't think it's mature yet in terms of human reasoning. But that's my opinion. I hear what you're saying, Mark. I like your perspective, what you're attempting to do. So you grew up with books, I did too, and I got my collection, and so it's this future generation. They're the digital natives. I don't know. How do we relate to them, and how are they going to relate to the world? And are they going to get totally confused by the AI misdirecting them? And that's where like the spiral dynamics is important to understand and to teach how these how people fit. And I was listening to Nate Hagen's, and then he directed me to another actualization, or somebody doing talks about that, and that's where I learned about it. So I learned enough to get me started, but I see there's an attitude adjustment. There's facing the boundaries when you realize, okay, all this stuff is not going to keep me happy. It's something more, some more purpose, and that so like it was great to see like Klaus has these 3 NeoBooks as examples, and it's still to me right now a mountain of text, and I think it can be better presented somehow. I don't see it yet, but it's
totally.
and
they need to be they ought to be refined. And where we stopped, and this is what sort of I thought this new book project could be helpful with, is once you have an outline like this. When we first started, there was Stuart, Pete, Jerry, Bill Anderson, and myself, right? And I got constant feedback of saying, this story, I don't get where you're going with this thing. You need to round this up and so on. And so then that ended, right? Because Stuart is not with us anymore, and Bill Anderson dropped out, and Pete dropped out, and so since then we have been talking about a lot of very esoteric topics, and it's like the spreadsheet and this, but there is nothing where we actually critiqued each other's work and supported each other in our writing. Here's a topic you're working on. Well, have you thought about this, or can you expand it there, right? Or I'm not quite sure I followed where you're going with this particular point. So that's sort of what I was thinking about in more practical terms of actually delivering a product, right? And so, I mean, we have been talking about theory, but absolutely going nowhere with it. That was,
Yep.
the point. So I don't know. I mean, it's I mean, I keep learning. I just keep listening in, and oh yeah, I mean, yeah, you should have some protocols assigned to this thing, and yeah, there is a structure that's missing here. And if I had a NeoBooks structure that would guide my writing, then I would have, a body for the book that would follow a certain logic pattern and so on, and no matter what the topic is, right? So maybe we could talk about that. How do you flesh out an evolving story in ways that that is digestible to the general public? And then how do you create a synopsis of this so that you don't have to read a whole big damn book, right, to understand where you go? What is this, right? No, you can have a synopsis where you can really summarize for someone who is intrigued by the topic in general, but doesn't want to digest 800 pages. So there are all kinds of things that are in practical terms we could be working on, but we're not, right? I mean, we're just talking.
So, to give an example, like my approach is, okay, I get interested in something, I'll download a bunch of resources from the internet, save them locally. Eventually, I'll look through little bits of them, but it's a research process. When you had to write a research paper in college, you had to figure out how to tie ideas together. And so, I like the idea of nuggets and reusing them and remixing them for various audiences. And I'd also like to add the idea of accessibility, because like I need audio in certain places, video, and using different times of my day, I'm receptive to different modes. So that's where I see the possibilities. It's a question of how do we come together on the same page and agree this is what we're going to try. And even the concept of a minimum viable product, if you think in those terms, what's the minimum I can show to get feedback on what I'm doing and where I should go next? That might be helpful.
Right, from a very practical way. Mark, if I may just insert one more thing here. I mean, I'm working with a bunch of NGOs, who are, working on very narrow topics. The water sentinels in the Sierra Club, right? The anti-CAFO team in the Sierra Club. They are all working in a silo, and they're unaware of how their silo is in conflict with other basically like-minded people, but the way they're neutralizing each other.
They need a map. They need to see it visually somehow.
So I'm always saying you're in a silo. What you need to do is claw your way up and look out and see who else is poking out of other silos and what are they doing and how can we connect this to make more sense out of it. So I've become very keenly aware of the need to connect silos, right? So that you can have a thought process evolve that's actually useful, right? And coalesce forces that that can partner and actually create change.
Yeah, like what I've learned is you need one or a few people who can be that bridge between these groups.
Right, which is the idea of innovations brokerage. So I've been promoting this in my second book, actually. It's the idea of innovations, actually, even in the first book, innovations brokers, right?
Yeah, thank you.
I just typed in innovation brokers into MX. Klaus, I think you've heard me before. Since 1984, I've written down almost every thought that I want to have again. About 2.5 million and 15 million links in between them. So I kind of know what a million is. Thank you, Klaus. Your description and your practical point of view makes me think that we should do exactly as you say. We should read your work. We should be editors as well as creative partners to present it in new ways. Now, given my backlog, and everybody has, as you say, topics, I don't know if I can commit to that scope of work and how we can coordinate effectively and efficiently to get the product out the door. Do we have a project definition? Do we have a project leader? Do we have a maybe distributed leadership way of interacting so that there's an assignment, that it gets done, that it gets checked, and published and out. Delivering a product is, even if we're delivering tiny little chunks, they still have to be reviewed. Is this understandable? Is this reaching the audience? And that high level work, I'm kind of, by circumstance, not too thrilled about doing anymore. I want to do something that's more fun for me. Now, not that it wouldn't be fun for me, but I don't have the bandwidth to do other things that are more lower down the, or I need to do things much lower down the Maslow scale of needs. Pay the rent type things, which, I'm sure you understand. And while I celebrate soil science and going to go to the UC Berkeley soil science exhibit, I'm not sure that my being here is going to help deliver your product, but I see that as a worthy goal. And if I can help, I will. But I think what you said, Klaus, means let's get more people in here and let's work on Klaus's project.
No, not work on Klaus's project.
Okay.
You may have a topic that you want to explore, and you may want to use the NeoBook approach, to put some structure around it and get deeper. And it doesn't take a lot of time for people in a meeting to see what you're working on. And then now you get another perspective. Have you thought about this? Because different life experiences may just intuitively add something to what you are working on that is insightful. That's good, right? So it is not just about me or in any sense at all. I mean, it is about anybody. I mean, Eric may come up and work on a project, and Eric's saying, here's my topic, right? It's just like I'm Farm Bill 2024. It's a project, right? And so I'm fleshing this out. Eric may have something, bingo, here's a headline. And then he's starting to work on it and he's starting to write on it. And so just following the syllable of what he's working on, and see, well, maybe there's one topic that you should slide in here. Have you thought of this? That could come out of this meeting, right? So we are supportive to each other. It should be, and then maybe you go around, maybe every week somebody else introduces their work and their topic, and then it becomes a discussion point. So it's not about me, or in any sense. It's just that I happen to have I'm like the only one apparently who has a finished product that is titled NeoBook, and it's because I don't know. I mean, I have a limited capacity for theory, I'm a practitioner, I'm an engineer, I'm just like, let's do some stuff. Anyway, guys, we're way out of time.
Okay, thank you very much for hosting. And yeah, I think it's important for us all to value each other's contributions here, because we may not even realize the impact we're having just by being together, sharing
Exactly.
ideas.
Yeah, so much comes out of it inadvertently. Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
Okay.
All right.
You know, The Future of Text by Frode
Yeah,
Hagelin?
Frode, yeah.
Basically,
follow him.
I used to follow his YouTube channel where he has meetings like this, and they talk about things like this, how to, take the next evolutionary step in.
Yeah, he's been doing things with virtual reality, AI. Yeah, so
Yeah, but
he's
also
on it. But yeah,
linked documents.
yeah, linked documents definitely.
Stuff. Thank you, Klaus. Don't want to keep us late, but I really appreciate what you just said. And I ask if I have it right, and I don't. Hooray!
All right. Talk to you
Okay.
later, guys. Bye bye. I'll
Thanks,
send
guys.
it out for
Thanks.
next week, Tuesday, 11.
Yeah,
All right.
thank you.